Hello everyone, Teacher Luis, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the modal verbs for possibility, may, might, and could. So pay attention and let's get started. Okay, sometimes these three different modals might be a little bit confusing because the three of them work very similarly, all right? Now, this is why I have this chart in here where I have the possibility levels, we can call it like that. We have an example and then we have an equivalent in Spanish. So first, we have to differentiate between may and might in terms of the level of possibility, all right? We will use may when something is likely to happen or when there is a real possibility for that to happen. It may rain later. Puede que llueva más tarde, okay? It's possible. Might is more unlikely to happen or is uncertain, okay? I might go to the party. Quizá vaya a la fiesta. You say, well, I may go to the party. Well, if you use may in that case, then it sounds like it's going to be more likely that you will go, right? So that will be basically the difference between using one or the other. And then when we use could, it's more neutral and it's a general possibility, all right? He could win the game. Podría ganar el partido. It's a possibility, it's neutral. I'm not saying that it's more likely to happen or less likely to happen. Now, as I have these notes in here, all three modals, may, might, and could, are used to express possibility, all right? So think of them as levels of possibility, all right? So just keep that in mind. And now in the next slides, I'm going to be talking about the structure as usual. Now, having this clear, the affirmative structure is going to be the same for the three different modals, right? So we're going to have the subject, then we're going to have the modal auxiliary verb, may, might, or could, and then we're going to use the verb in the base form, and then the complement. And I have three examples in here with all these different colors so that you can relate them. So Mary may travel next week is following that formula. They might be late, or Randy could win the game, all right? So remember, do not add any, because sometimes the mistake that some students make when we are starting to use these models is to add, instead of using the verb in the base form or the verb alone, sometimes they use, for example, number one, Mary may travel next week. Sometimes they use Mary may to travel. No, we don't need that to in there, okay? It's just the verb alone, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, for the negative structure. So the negative structure is very simple. The only thing that we have to do is to add a not to the modal verb, okay? So the same, we have the subject, we have any of the three modals, may, might, and could, plus the not, and then the verb in the base form, and then the complement. Now, the examples. Well, Mary may not travel next week. These are the same examples as the affirmative sentences, but now we're using them in negative, or we are applying the negative one, and then they might not come, and then we have Stuart could not win the game. Now, in here, I have a note in here down below, because it's really, really important. It changes the way in which we use it. It's not only in negative, they could not, because, well, we use may not or might not for uncertain possibility, but then we use couldn't when something seems almost impossible or you're strongly denying it, okay? It's more like no es posible. All right. If I say Stuart couldn't win the game, no es posible que Stuart gane el juego. All right. So when we use it in negative, then couldn't becomes almost impossible, or you're strongly denying whatever it is that you're stating. Okay. So pay attention to that one. May and might for uncertain possibility, couldn't, something that is almost impossible, or you're strongly denying that, right? Keep that in mind. For the yes-no questions, we're going to apply inversion, okay, as usual. So we're going to have the modal auxiliary, then we're going to add the subject, and then you're going to add the verb in the base form. plus the complement, of course. Now, I have 3 different sets of examples in here with the short answer and also with the full sentence answer, because that sometimes it's also possible for any tense, actually. Number 1, we're still using the same examples. May Mary travel next week? Well, the short answer is yes, she may, or no, she may not. Mary is a she, so that's why we have to use the personal pronoun for the answer. And sometimes it's also possible to answer in full sentences. May Mary travel next week? Yes, she may travel. Or yes, she may travel next week. That is also possible, okay? Then we have the second example, might they be late? Short answer is yes, they might, or no, they might not. Or the full answer, yes, they might be late, or no, they might not be late. Number 3 says, could Randy win the game? Short answer, yes, he could, or no, he couldn't. Or the full sentence, yes, he could win the game, or no, he couldn't win the game. Randy is a he. We use the personal pronoun he. All right, so keep that in mind. I am sure that by now you already know that when you use or you ask yes, no questions, when the subject in the question is not a personal pronoun, you have to make sure that you know. For example, Mary, okay, Mary is a she, right? Or my brother and I, okay, that is a we, all right? When we answer yes, no question. We have the last set, or the last formula, actually, the WH questions, okay? So remember that in this case, we usually keep the yes, no question structure, and then we just add the WH word at the very beginning of the formula or of the sentence. Now, there's the exception of the, for example, what, because sometimes we add a noun right next to what, like what person could be the best for this position, right? So I'm adding what person. But most of the time, the formula is going to be like this. We have the examples in here. What might she do tomorrow? Where could they go for lunch? When may we hear the results? Or why might he be upset? All right. Yeah, that's it. As you see, most of the time, all these structures follow the same pattern, right? So it's a matter of making sure that we understand it and we self-monitor when we want to use them, all right? So that's everything for today. Remember that you have the assignment in the Google Classroom. Read through every single one of the instructions in there and complete the worksheet. If you have any questions, remember that you can send them to the WhatsApp group where your teacher or Teacher Luis, myself, are going to be answering as soon as possible. Okay? I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.